105.7 Light FM. That's Nickelback there. How do? I'm up to 80 degrees in Sebring now. We're at 8:41, 19 before 9. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. You should do that. That legal beagle fast talker means it's time to check in and see what is going on Wall Street with your money through the good auspices of Philip Statler from Statler Financial Services in downtown Sebring. Philip, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, good morning, Dave. Doing well today. Short week. Today is the last day of the second quarter, last day of June. It's hard to believe we move into July tomorrow. And, well, I don't know. The markets have been a little rough this month.
It has for a fact. Yesterday was a pretty good day. I mean, Dow ended up setting a new record. We opened up the morning at 52,183 after gaining 306.5 points yesterday. Standard & Poor's was up more than a full percent. Just doesn't sound as impressive when you say 86.5 up. And NASDAQ had a party, too, a full 2% plus up, $523. Russell 2000, I think they got 33 cents up, but it was green as well, so it was a pretty much solid green Wall Street. And what's going to be interesting at the end of the month balancing that we always look at, and end of the quarter balancing, what do you figure a lot of the big funds are going to be doing with the tech stocks? Because they've been the biggest victim for the last few weeks, haven't they?
They have, Dave. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. Again, Starlink's going to have to go in there somewhere in some of these different index funds here pretty soon. The S&P 500 is the only one that seems to be standing strong and saying, nope, you got to go through our process. And until you get there, we're not going to put you in, which is good. That's good. But here's, I did think this was interesting. Small cap stocks enjoy the best first half a year in 35 years.
Holy crud! I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen a comparison. I knew they were doing relatively well, but that's a surprise. Which, when you hold it up against the mega cap, high tech stocks, tidbit I found this morning, the Magnificent Seven, those great companies that have been driving our economy so well. In the last few months, their capitalization has lost $2.3 trillion in market capitalization during this tech sell-off. I mean, that's tea. I mean, you got to pass $3 trillion. You start talking about real money eventually, don't you?
Yeah, that's a big number. That's a big number. On the downside, when the Russell up, I got the number 21% so far this year. They're up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I wish the company I used to work for that's on the Russell was doing well. It's just absolutely tanking, but I'm glad small growth stocks in general are doing better. It's been kind of interesting, but, the green ink yesterday, relative calm. I say relative calm over in the Gulf. And one of the things kind of surprised me, one of the Supreme Court decisions yesterday, that President Trump kind of got half a loaf on all this flurry of Supreme Court decisions. Yeah, he got the unitary executive power over the, quote, independent agencies, but he lost on the Federal Reserve. That Fed governor he's been wanting to fire for the last 6-8 months. The Supreme Court said, nope, the Fed is an independent company. You can't fire them. So the market evidently was rather happy that the Fed's independence got preserved, even in the face of the rest of the half-a-loaf President Trump got. And one of my analysts was saying that was the biggest contributor to the rises yesterday on the market.
Well, that was, we want that entity to be independent. Because they control part of the money supply, right? There's only so much they can do, but they need to be able to do it without having to worry about some president hammering them. It's bad enough Trump has hammered hard, believe me, verbally anyway. But they definitely need their independence. That is a key factor in our economy.
it is one of those entities inside the federal government, big umbrella, that we want to be able to make unpopular decisions, and sometimes those decisions are unpopular on the short term. So independence is a necessity. I want to be able to sit here and make fun of those people and not worry about the politicians making a decision that probably is good for the short term, but it really looks dumb on the long term basis. Keeping that independence is a good thing, and it looks like the status quo is being preserved on that front. You and I were talking before we went on the air. There's absolutely jack diddly going on as far as market reports going on today, as far as reporting companies are concerned. I understand we're getting Nike after the bell. That's one of those distressed companies that's finally looking like they might be starting a turnaround.
I hope they can turn around something. It has been a long haul for them. They have just really taken it on the chin the last, I don't know, I think you can go back probably 3 years, maybe even since COVID hit, that they've really just struggled to turn that thing around. And hopefully they've got a plan in place to do it. I did have one
Mm-hmm.
report that did come out that I did find, Dave. Not a common company but it's a relatively new, at least on the market company,
Mm-hmm.
AeroVironment. I think I said that right.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, really. It's a drone maker, makes big drones, and they had a good quarter. They beat on earnings by almost 40 cents a share. They beat on revenue by almost $100 million. So a good beat for them. They were up as much as 30% earlier. Now they're up about 28.7%.
All right. Good to see a new issue doing that. By the way, speaking of new issues, you'd mentioned SpaceX and all of their concerns. They closed yesterday at $164.19. They're still barely holding above what their opening price on the IPO was last week. So people who bought them at 210 are kind of going, ooh. other other tidbits going on. Talk about growth stocks at the moment. Comcast. They announced they're going to spin off NBC Universal, and I gather that their stockholders really liked it. They were up big time yesterday morning in the pre-market. Looks like they held it through the day. Evidently, getting rid of their broadcast interest is going to be going over big with their stockholders, huh?
It definitely looks like it, Dave. I mean, evidently they believe that part of the company is holding back the other part, and they think they can have some blockbuster growth if we can just get rid of that part of the company. And so that definitely seems to be the take, anyway, from what we're seeing here with what some articles saying the divorce in Comcast.
Probably. You talk about core competency and core business. I mean, a lot of folks don't realize, but Comcast basically is the internet backbone in this country. So consequently, you get to the point of, okay, what's my core competency? Let's blow off all the over-the-air broadcast stuff that we own and get into the wired stuff that they're actually really good at. I would imagine if I was a Comcast stockholder, I'd probably look at that and saying, okay, core competency is a good thing too. And evidently the rest of their stockholders agree. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
Super Micro, that little scandalette from a few weeks ago about how they had some people, doing some insider stuff with chips and whatnot. Their offices in Taiwan were raided yesterday. That little scandalette isn't over yet.
Still got more to go, huh?
Absolutely. No matter how good their quarterly report was last week, they still aren't out of the legal woods. Going to be a quiet day today as far as the government data dump is concerned. We got the Conference Board's consumer confidence number coming up, some JOLTS reports as far as job openings coming up, and quits rates and whatnot. And I think you said you got some housing data coming out a little later on this morning too, right?
Yeah, it's some obscure indexes like the S&P 500, Case-Shiller Home Index. There's a Chicago Business Barometer survey come out later this morning as well. Not anything that's going to really move the markets any way, shape, or form. But the consumer confidence, that could, and the JOLTS report could.
Absolutely. It's going to be a week kind of like a couple of weeks ago when everything got crammed in early before the Juneteenth holiday. We're pretty much going to get a flood on Thursday because all the usual Friday reports for the jobs reports are going to be moved up and reported on Thursday. So you and I are going to have a boatload of things to talk about on Thursday. In the interim, for the next 2 days, it's almost tidbits from the markets as they trade from day to day, aren't they?
They are. Now, we do get ADP will come out tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's right. We do get the private sector report, and that could be a market mover because if it keeps the focus on inflation instead of jobs, we'll pretty much know what our interest rate future is. Any other tidbits that you're hearing out there today?
No, I am squeaking by just trying to find something. I mean, it's just one of those times where when you're the last day of the quarter, it will be interesting, though, Dave, to see kind of what happens today, how things shake out when we start looking at some updates and what portfolio managers do today to prop up their mutual funds so that this is a window dressing day. This has probably been a window dressing week where companies are trying to position themselves so they look good to their investors and their stockholders. We are seeing now a tinge of green across the board, except for the smaller caps. So, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting day today as we close out the quarter.
Could be. And like I said, I was alluding to the Magnificent Seven. I got to believe there's going to be a little bit of profit taking and readjusting away from the Magnificent Seven, given the kind of bloodbath that they've had in market cap over the last few weeks. I got to make mention of the fact that Bitcoin this morning, I'm reading it at 58,938 for Bitcoin, off of a peak of after a peak of almost 120 back a few months ago. Wowzers!
Yeah, that's a big drop, isn't it?
Oh, Godfrey. Yeah, like I said, I hate to be the poor boob that bought it at 100. Resetting the table, everything was up yesterday, 45 minutes before we opened this morning. What are we looking at?
So right now, Dave, we've got a mixture. It looks like the Dow and the S&P 500 have gone slightly green. NASDAQ 100 and the Russell 2000 are slightly in the red this morning before we get going. On the other side, silver still below 60, up 0.5% at 58.92 right now. Gold's barely above 4,000, down a quarter, 4,028. Crude oil's up 1/3%, which means it's dropped since you and I started talking this morning, at $70.97 a barrel right now.
And it's a little higher than we'd like, but at least it's staying somewhat under control. Heading across the pond, the Asian rim was mixed, but with a green tinge. Somebody must have put a buy order in from the Chinese Communist Party because one of the mainland Chinese indexes was up by 2.5%. And if you want to see a statistical outlier and a bunch of fractional changes, that definitely was it. Europe, looking at the fact that Iran and the United States agreed to not overreact to the exchange of explosives, they're generally green. The average European index halfway through their trading day up by about 0.75%, which is nice to see green over there as well. Getting my retirement together, I'm hoping someday I'll be able to retire, Philip. That's going to take some eyes to make sure I got the right plan, though. How do I find you to get that plan?
And exactly what you said, Dave. It takes a plan. So many people out there have no plan going into retirement. They have nothing written down. And that's important to have. And that's one of the things we help our clients develop is that retirement income plan. Where's my income going to come from? Give us a call at 863-382-0037 to schedule your 30 minutes where we'll talk about where you are, where you need to get to, and how to get there. And then catch the Statler Financial radio show this weekend where we'll talk about financial independence. 6 a.m. and noon on Saturday, 10 a.m. Sunday morning on Highlands News Talk, 7:30 a.m. and 95.3 FM.
And you and me again tomorrow morning, same time here on Light. I appreciate it, and we'll talk then, all right?
All righty. Take care.
Thank you, my friend. It's 105.7 Light FM and Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler.
Hey, folks, again, I want to thank you for joining us today. Hope your week is going well. Welcome to the end of the second quarter. Join us tomorrow for the first day of the third quarter. Bye now.